Woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Oh, woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Oh, woke up this morning with my mind stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Oh, walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Walking and talking with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Oh, singing and praying with my mind. Lord, 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 stay on freedom. Singing and praying with my mind. Stay on freedom. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Let's walk. Come on and walk, walk. Come on and walk, walk. Come on and walk, walk. With your mind on freedom. Walk, walk. Come on and 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 walk. Talk, talk. Come on and talk, talk. Because it ain't no harm to keep your mind.
Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lordy, turn me round. Keep on a walking, Lordy, keep on a talking, Lordy, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let segregation, Lordy, turn me round and keep on a walking, yeah, keep on a talking, yeah, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no jailhouse, Lordy, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let no jailhouse turn me round. Keep on a walking, Lord, keep on a talking, Lord, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no nervous Nelly, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let no nervous Nelly, Lord, turn me round. Keep on a walking, yeah, keep on a talking, yeah, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Chief Preacher, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let Chief Preacher, Lord, turn me round. Keep on a walking, Lord, keep on a talking, Lord, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let Mayor Kelly, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let Mayor Kelly, Lord, turn me round. Keep on a walking, Lord, keep on a talking, Lord, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no Uncle Tom, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let no Uncle Tom, Lord, turn me round. Keep on a walking, yeah, keep on a talking, yeah, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lord, turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody, Lord, turn me round. Gonna keep on a walking, yeah, yeah. Keep on a talking, yeah. Marching up to freedom land.
Hi, I'm Mandy Medley. I'm one of the co-owners and workers here at Pilsen Community Books, and I'm so excited to team up with our comrades at 1977 Books to welcome Jeanne Theoharis, Pam Horowitz, and Judy Richardson here tonight to celebrate Julian Bond's Time to Teach. This is just a galley, but Eric has a beautiful finished coffee, which he'll show off later. A couple of quick notes before oh, you have one too. Great. A couple of quick notes before I turn the event over to activist and historian and research assistant for the book, Eric Wallenberg. One is that we will have time for questions at the end, so if you have any questions at all during the event, just feel free to drop them in the chat at any time, and I'll make sure they get to the right place. Don't be shy. And also, you can buy Time to Teach, A More Beautiful, Terrible in History, and Hands on the Freedom Plow, and two other of Jeanne Theoharis' books at pilsencommunitybooks.com and also at 1977books.com. And just real quick, 1977 Books is a volunteer-run abolitionist bookstore, library, and community space in downtown Montgomery. And they're the real deal, and I highly recommend that you check them out. And with that, I will turn it over to Eric.
Okay, thanks. I want to welcome everyone, and thanks for joining the celebration of this book and of Julian's life and work. The book, of course, is Julian Bond's Time to Teach. It's a history of the Southern Civil Rights Movement. And we're so lucky to be joined by three people who knew Julian well. And so I'm going to introduce them, and then we'll ask some questions, and we'll get some conversation going here about Julian's work and all of your work. So first, Pamela Horowitz, who co-edited the book and wrote the foreword, was one of the first lawyers hired by the Southern Poverty Law Center. She worked in partnership with her late husband, Julian Bond, in multiple private, public, and academic projects, and is involved in several activities honoring his legacy. Jeanne Theoharis, who co-edited the book with Pam and wrote the introduction, is Distinguished Professor of Political Science at Brooklyn College of the City University of New York. She's the author of The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks, A More Beautiful and Terrible History, as Mandy had pointed out. And just out, also from Beacon Press, the Young Readers edition of The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks. Jeanne was also Julian Bond's student, teaching assistant, and mentee. Finally, Judy Richardson. Judy was on the staff of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, from 1963 to 1966. She was in SNCC's Atlanta National Office, in Mississippi during the 1964 Freedom Summer, and in Lowndes County, Alabama. She ran the office for Julian Bond's successful first campaign for the Georgia House of Representatives, She co-founded Drum and Spear Bookstore in Washington, D.C., once the largest African-American bookstore in the country. She was the children's editor of its publishing house. Judy worked on the 14-hour PBS series Eyes on the Prize from its inception and was education director of the film. With 5 other SNCC women, she co-edited Hands on the Freedom Plow, again, which Mandy showed you all there in the intro, and is on the board of the SNCC Legacy Project. She lectures nationally about the movement and its history and values. And in 2021, in this year, she will again co-direct an NEH 3-week Teacher Institute focused on grassroots organizing. So you should definitely check that out. We've got a wealth of knowledge in the house tonight. So I'd like to start with Julian. Julian lived a full life from his time in SNCC as a Georgia State House representative in the Southern Poverty Law Center, his work in Eyes on the Prize, heading up the NAACP, teaching, civil rights tours. I mean, it goes on and on. So I was just hoping we could start maybe with Judy. If you could tell us about who Julian was to you. How did you meet him? What was your work with him?
Yes, I'd be delighted. And by the way, let me just say, I was so excited getting this book. And I'll just say, I love the intro let's see, Jeanne did the intro, Pam did the foreword. And, usually you get, oh, thank you to the librarian and the researcher who helped me. These were really lovely, interesting, Julian filled intros and forwards. So anyway, I appreciated that. Okay, having said that, how did I first meet Julian? I come from, just so you know, Tarrytown, New York, Washington, being 25 miles north of New York City. Okay. My father had helped to organize it's a factory town when I was growing up. And so my father was helped to organize the local in the factory. He dies on the line when I'm 7. My mother becomes a single parent. She gets both my sister and me to college. I end up at Swarthmore College, good Quaker school in Pennsylvania. And while I'm there, I come across a Students for a Democratic Society, that's SDS, which is a group of progressive, northern, primarily white students, national organization. They're supporting the sit-ins. Okay, I kind of go in league with them. I go to Cambridge, Maryland on demonstrations. I get arrested. I come back. Somebody comes back from SNCC and says, look, I see that you've been getting arrested and you're kind of in jail on the weekends and Monday. And why don't you just take off some time and work, for the next semester, which would be sophomore year, for SNCC. And that was Penny Patch, who had just come back from Southwest Georgia. She was a SNCC staff person. So I say, okay, now that's a whole other thing in terms of my mother, who had an 8th grade education, and I'm the first generation, immediate family getting to college, what that means. But that's a whole other story. So I go ahead, I confirm that I'm keeping my full 4-year scholarship, and I end up on a trip with Reggie Robinson, who was a Baltimore SNCC guy, black guy, who was helping the Cambridge, Maryland movement. And he says at some point when I'm in Cambridge, I'm going down to the national office. Why don't you come go with me? So we take the train down to the national office, and I'm thinking, oh, national office, maybe like Urban League, and Rugsville. None of that is true, right? So, but I get there, and it's a little side street with 6.5 and 8.5 and 6 Raymond Street, right off the main drag, which is now called Martin Luther King Boulevard, but was then called Hunter Street. Okay, right near all of the HBCUs, Morehouse and Spelman and Clark Atlanta, all those folks. Okay, so we take it, and again, I'm looking for this big time office. I get to where Reggie lands, and it's in front of this barber shop. And I see this window in the door. It's a door, glass door. And Reggie runs up the stairs, and he hugs this big guy who's in overalls, who is sweeping the stairs. And I hear this big guy say, "Oh, hey, Captain, how you doing?" And it's like they're long lost brothers. And I'm thinking, oh, this is so egalitarian. Reggie he's hugging the janitor. And I find out that it's Jim Foreman, the executive secretary, larger than life, who often swept the stairs, not that very well. But again, the SNCC thing, which was what he's saying is there is no job too lowly for anybody in the organization to do. And every job, no matter how lowly, is important to the sustenance of the organization. Okay, so Reggie introduces me. Foreman finds out that I am, at Swarthmore. So, okay, I'm in college. He figures I can write a literate sentence. I can type 90 words a minute. I do what is called shorthand, which is kind of like texting, but with symbols. And I never get back to Swarthmore. But when I come in, what I see is all of these young people. Like, I'm 19 years old, right? So I see all these young people, 18, 19. I mean, Julian was older, 21 or 22, whatever it was. So I see all of these folks, and they're my age. Most of them are Black. They're really, really good. And they're passionate about this movement. And I look around and I see, after I get in, I find out that there is a research department. I'm going to get to communication and Julian in a minute. But you see, research department, crusty old white guy named Jack Minnis, who could get research from a stone, who could tell you who the board of trade was in any community you were about to organize in. We had a photo department, again, before cell phones. So photo department was really important because you had to document that all the violence you were talking about, really was happening. If a church were burned or whatever. Also, the national networks that SNCC had, the Friends of SNCC, the campus Friends of SNCC, all the campus work that SNCC is doing on Black, what's now called HBCUs. Then the fundraising. For example, when Harry Belafonte organized and hosted a fundraising concert for SNCC at Carnegie Hall with the SNCC Freedom Singers, all of that, and $10 a week, which ends up being $9.64 after taxes. So this is what I come into. Now, Julian, when I see Julian for the first time, he's sitting